welcome back to Podcast That Book. You know that stack of books you've been meaning to get to? Well, we're diving deep into one today that I think you'll find fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
It's called How to Tell a Story by Meg Bowles and the Moth.
Ah, yes. This one is a gem. For those who might not know the Moth, they're known for these live storytelling events where people share true...
Personal stories.
Yeah, personal stories.
It's incredible how they went from, informal gatherings in someone's living room to a globally recognized platform.
It is.
But you know what really intrigues me about the book is this core message that everyone has a story worth telling.
Right.
They even share this great anecdote about a cocktail party where the host had everyone tell a story connected to Arkansas.
Oh, that's a fantastic example, and it illustrates how easily stories can just kind of emerge, you know? Think about it. You probably got a million of them yourself.
Oh, totally.
Remember that time you got called for jury duty? Or when you dropped your keys down an elevator shaft? These seemingly ordinary moments, these little clashes between expectation and reality are often the seeds of truly captivating stories.
That makes total sense. It's those unexpected twists that make a story worth hearing.
Exactly.
But how do we go from, drop my keys to an actual story that people want to listen to?
Well, the book really dives into the Moth's philosophy, and it kind of centers on these key elements.
Sure.
Their stories are always true,
Okay.
told out loud,
Yeah.
and they feature stakes and transformation.
Okay.
It's fascinating how these kind of simple guidelines can really make all the difference.
Okay, so let's break those down a little bit.
Sure.
True, told out loud.
Yep.
Got it. But what exactly do they mean by stakes?
Think of stakes as what the storyteller has to gain or lose.
Okay.
It's what makes us, the listeners, lean in and become invested.
Yeah.
And remember, these stakes are personal. What matters to the storyteller? What are they hoping for, afraid of, or maybe desperately trying to avoid?
Right.
The book uses this great example from Moth storyteller Chenjerai Kumanyika. He accidentally ordered 1 million Gilmore Girls DVDs instead of 200.
Oh my gosh.
And the stakes were high because his job depended on fixing that mistake.
Oh, I remember that story. I was on the edge of my seat wondering if he was going to get fired.
Right.
But you're right. It doesn't have to be a life or death situation.
Right.
The book even points out that something as simple as trying to get a bag of pretzels out of a vending machine can have stakes.
Exactly. It's all about how you, the storyteller, frame it.
Yeah.
You draw us in, make us feel the importance of what's happening, even if it's just a pretzel.
I like that.
And then there's the element of transformation.
Okay.
Every Moth story involves the shift in the storyteller's perspective because of the events that they're describing.
So it's not just about what happened, but how the experience changed them.
Precisely.
Okay.
Take Sister Mary Navarre's story, for example.
Okay.
She noticed her mother putting away her sister's shoes after her sister passed away. It was this small observation, but it led to this profound shift in her understanding of grief and loss.
Wow, that's a powerful example.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about those moments in my own life where I experienced a real shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Those times when I had a sudden realization or discovered a strength I didn't know I had.
That's exactly it. Those moments of change are often where the most compelling stories live.
Yeah.
And the book even breaks down the structure of a Moth story for us.
Oh, okay.
They talk about scenes, summaries, and reflections.
Okay, so scenes are like those vivid moments where you feel like you're right there with the storyteller.
Yes, like you're experiencing the action firsthand.
Right.
Summaries are more like bridges that kind of help move us through the story's timeline,
Yeah.
like 3 weeks later or after much trial and error.
Gotcha.
And reflections. Well, that's where the storyteller steps back and shares their thoughts and feelings about what's happening.
Okay.
They give us this glimpse into their inner world.
So I see they use Jackie's story about giving her baby up for adoption to show how these elements can all work together to make the story flow.
Exactly. The book does a great job of highlighting how choosing the right details and weaving them together can make a story so captivating and memorable.
This is all so fascinating.
Mhm.
But the book also acknowledges that storytelling, especially when it comes to personal experiences, can be emotionally challenging, right?
Absolutely.
Reliving certain memories can be incredibly vulnerable.
Totally.
They dedicate an entire section to discussing this challenge and the importance of being honest with yourself about what you're ready to share.
Right.
It's a good reminder that we have the right to choose which stories we share and when.
Yeah.
They mentioned this example of Meg Bowles working with Jeremy Jennings, a former Guantanamo guard.
Oh, right.
He was initially hesitant to share his story publicly.
Yeah.
And they respected his decision, recognizing that not all stories are ready to be told, at least not right away.
Exactly.
There's a level of respect and self-awareness involved in the storytelling process.
Yeah.
This raises an interesting question, though.
What's that?
If sharing personal stories can be so challenging, why do people do it? What's the draw?
That's where it gets really interesting, because the book reveals that storytelling can be so much more than just entertainment.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Well, they delve into how storytelling can be a powerful tool for advocacy, connection, and even preserving legacy.
Oh, wow.
They use the example of Nikim Ocean, who uses her story of living with fibroids to advocate for better menstrual health resources.
So stories can actually be a way to spark important conversations and even create change.
Precisely. And they can also foster this sense of connection and understanding.
Yeah.
Think about Danicia Trevino's story, Guilty.
Okay.
She received this letter from a listener who felt so deeply seen and understood after hearing her experience as a juror.
Right, and it makes me think about the power of stories to help us see the world through someone else's eyes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, the book highlights the value of collecting stories from our loved ones. It reminds us that those seemingly everyday moments can be precious pieces of family history.
I love that. It's like a call to action to start interviewing our grandparents, parents, aunts, and uncles
Yeah.
before those stories are lost.
Exactly, before those stories are lost.
Wow, this is already so insightful.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see the potential of storytelling in a whole new light. What
Yeah.
stands out to you so far?
What resonates with me is this transformative power of storytelling.
Yeah.
It can shape our perspectives, forge connections, and even spark change.
Uh-huh.
And it's all around us, just waiting to be discovered and shared.
I like that.
How about you? What are your initial takeaways?
Well, I'm struck by the idea that everyone truly has a story worth telling.
Right.
Even those everyday moments, those little unexpected turns of events, can be seeds for powerful narratives.
I agree with that. It's inspiring, isn't it? And the book actually gives us tons of practical tips for getting started with our own stories.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Like brainstorming ideas and figuring out the structure.
Yeah. I love how they encourage us to think about those moments when we made a decision, whether it was big or small.
Right.
Because often those choices lead to these interesting consequences that make for great stories.
Absolutely. Like, did you quit your job?
Yeah.
Did you fire someone? Or maybe finally speak up for yourself?
Yeah.
These decisions and those ripple effects that follow can be a goldmine for storytelling.
I see what you mean. It's those moments where we take a leap or face a challenge or change course that often shape our journeys in such a profound way.
Yeah.
And the book is big on starting right in the action.
Yes.
Which makes sense if you want to grab the listener's attention.
Right. Who wants to hear, well, let me tell you about this one time.
Exactly.
They even share examples of some really compelling opening lines from Moth storytellers.
Oh, really?
Like, I reached over and secretly undid my seatbelt, or I was on an ambulance stretcher as all the screams from the people trying to save my life faded away.
Wow, those are powerful.
Yeah.
You're instantly hooked.
Exactly.
It's like they just drop you right into the heart of the story.
Exactly. But they also caution against certain types of endings.
Oh, like what?
Like ones that feel too perfect.
Okay.
Or try to spell out the moral of the story.
Right.
Nobody wants a preachy ending.
It's much more impactful when the listener can kind of draw their own conclusion.
Exactly. They call those earned endings.
Okay.
Conclusions that feel both satisfying and authentic to the story being told.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so we found our story.
Okay.
And we figured out the structure.
Uh-huh.
But what about actually telling it?
Right.
How do we make sure it lands with the audience?
That's what I'm wondering. Any tips on delivery?
Oh, they have a lot to say about that.
Okay.
One of the biggest takeaways for me was the importance of being yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Using your natural voice.
Right.
And avoiding that kind of formality.
It's like that saying, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. But it's easier said than done, especially when you're feeling nervous up there.
Oh, they totally get that.
Yeah.
They even offer some tips for dealing with nerves, like having water on hand.
Oh, yeah, for dry mouth.
Yes, for dry mouth.
Right.
And reminding yourself that nobody knows if you mess up a little.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
The audience doesn't have the script in their heads.
Exactly. And they talk about the importance of pacing.
Yeah.
Finding that sweet spot between talking too fast and too slow.
Right, right.
They even mention Moran Cerf, this neuroscientist, who is a super fast talker.
Oh, wow.
And then you have Edgar Oliver, a storyteller with a much more deliberate, almost poetic pace.
It's fascinating how different styles
Yeah.
can be equally effective.
Yeah.
It's all about what feels natural to you as the storyteller.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now, something I was curious about was their take on humor in storytelling,
Okay.
because it can be such a powerful tool,
Yeah.
but also kind of tricky to navigate.
Right. Like a well-placed joke can really connect with the audience.
Yeah.
But if it feels forced or out of place,
Uh-huh.
it can really fall flat.
They caution against using humor as a shield
Okay.
to avoid vulnerability,
Oh, interesting.
because that can create distance between you and the listener.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't want to use humor to deflect from the heart of the story.
Exactly. But they also acknowledge that humor, when used authentically,
Yeah.
can be this beautiful way to connect with the audience and create those moments of levity,
Yeah.
especially amidst maybe some heavier themes.
Yeah.
They even describe a shared laugh as a gift to the listener,
Oh, wow.
a way to kind of forge this bond.
I love that analogy.
Why?
It's like you're inviting the audience to share in the joy of the story with you.
Exactly. Now, of course, we can't shy away from the delicate topic of telling stories about trauma.
Right.
The book does this great job emphasizing the importance of controlling the narrative
Yeah.
and being honest with yourself about what you're ready to share.
Yes. And they make this important distinction between telling a story from the scars
Right.
versus the wounds.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
It highlights the need to find that balance between sharing your experience
Uh-huh.
and protecting your own well-being.
Right, right.
They even share an example of a potential storyteller
Okay.
who reached out to the Moth wanting to tell this story about being at Guantanamo.
Oh, wow.
And ultimately, he decided he wasn't ready.
It's a good reminder that not all stories are meant for public consumption,
Right.
at least not right away.
Yeah.
We're in charge of our own stories, and we can decide when and how we want to share them.
Absolutely. And it reminded me of another topic they touch on, telling stories about people who have died.
Yes. It can be such a beautiful way to honor their memory,
It is.
but also comes with a unique set of challenges.
It does.
Reliving those memories can be incredibly emotional.
They offer some really great tips for navigating those emotions,
Like what?
like focusing on specific details and anecdotes
Hmm?
that really capture the essence of the person.
I love how they encourage us to see those stories as tiny visits from loved ones.
Yeah.
It's a way to keep their memory alive.
Right.
It's beautiful.
And that sense of connection extends beyond our personal circles.
Okay.
The book highlights how storytelling can build bridges
Huh.
with people from different backgrounds and walks of life.
Yes. They share Damon Young's story about being called the N-word, a story that really sparked these important conversations about race and identity.
Yes.
And then there's Aletha Kazmi's story
Yes.
about being asked to color her face brown with a crayon in elementary school.
It's amazing how personal stories like these
Yeah.
can resonate with others, even those who haven't had the same lived experiences.
Yeah.
They open our eyes to different perspectives.
This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
I'm really starting to understand the power of storytelling on this much deeper level.
Me too. It's not just about entertainment.
Right.
It's about connection,
Right.
understanding,
Yeah.
and even social change.
Before we wrap up, what are you walking away with from this deep dive?
Oh, that's a good question.
What's resonating with you the most?
What strikes me is the sheer power of stories, how they can shape our understanding of ourselves, each other, and the world.
Yeah.
It's like they say in the book, stories are the currency of community.
I love that.
They allow us to connect, to empathize,
Right.
and to create meaning.
That's so true. And it's a beautiful reminder that we all have stories to tell.
Yeah.
Stories that deserve to be heard.
Absolutely. And for me, that's the most important takeaway,
Yeah.
to embrace the power of our own stories
Yeah.
and to listen with open hearts to the stories of others.
You know, as we've been talking about the power of storytelling, one thing that's been on my mind is how it can be applied in like professional settings.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just for campfire tales and dinner parties.
Right.
Storytelling can be a real game changer in the workplace.
Right. The book actually talks about how some companies are incorporating storytelling into their presentations and training programs.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
Stories are just so much more engaging and memorable than just dry facts and figures.
Right.
They really bring information to life.
Exactly. And they shared an example of a media agency that was struggling to win pitches
Oh, right.
because their presentations were just so data heavy.
Yeah, they were just drowning their clients in data.
Right.
Nobody wants that.
And by weaving stories into their data, they were able to connect with clients on a deeper level and make their information more compelling.
It's so true.
It reminds me of that saying, numbers tell a story, but it's the human element that makes it sing.
I love that.
It's that personal connection that really resonates with people.
Storytelling can also be this powerful tool for building company culture.
Oh, yeah.
They gave the example of Alexandra, who shared a story about a major setback in her career during a company workshop.
Oh, I remember that one. By being vulnerable and sharing her experience,
Yeah.
she created a more open and supportive work environment.
It's amazing how a single story can have this ripple effect, inspiring others to be more authentic and compassionate.
It shows how shared experiences, even the difficult ones, can help us find common ground and build stronger connections.
It's so true.
This whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to the vast possibilities of storytelling.
Me too. It's this reminder that stories are more than just words on a page.
Right.
They're these vessels of emotion, connection, and meaning. They have the power to move us, challenge us, and bring us together.
Well said. I'm walking away from this with a renewed appreciation for the power of storytelling.
Yeah.
And a toolbox full of tips for crafting and sharing my own narratives.
I love that. And I'm reminded of the importance of listening to the stories of others.
Yes.
With curiosity and empathy.
Right.
It's through those stories that we truly connect with each other and make sense of the world around us.
So as we wrap up, what's one piece of advice you would give to our listeners who are ready to start telling their own stories?
Embrace your vulnerability.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to share your experiences, even the messy, imperfect ones.
Yeah.
It's in those moments of honesty that the magic happens.
That's beautiful advice.
Yeah.
And I would add, don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect story.
Right.
Just start telling your stories and see where they take you.
Here's to happy storytelling.
Happy storytelling, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Podcast That Book.